Hello, and welcome to Short Points, where we share thoughts on the Sabbath School lessons. We have Tsetso back. Welcome back, Tsetso. People have been asking for you, and I'm sure that many will be pleased to see you back. We are also changing the format a bit, gaining some flexibility with it, as we are now doing it through Zoom and we can record remotely as well. But the objective remains the same. We will be sharing what impressed us and what are the main points that we are taking away out of the lesson. So, starting a new quarter themed Rest in Christ, with the intro of it labeled Rest for the Restless. Interesting titles. What is your first impression, Tsetso?
First, I would say it's a very important topic. How do we understand Christ's philosophy for life? How do we choose to live God's recommended lifestyle and use His wisely created provisions for healthy and spiritual life? This is what we're going to be looking at. Do we trust Him, or we prefer to work out the circumstances around us on our own, frantically? Like having an answer for everything, or have a solution, or have a pill, have an action, have a step-by-step plan always, but have less faith, less godliness. My dad is the pilot, and I knew he was taking me home. These were the words of a small girl traveling in an airplane through a storm, in a turbulence, drawing her picture in her chair when everybody was scared and afraid and restless. I know my dad is the pilot and he's taking me home. Do we keep our cool in times of challenges because we have God? Do we know how to rest in Christ?
Rest for the restless. Fast and furious is the first thing that comes to my mind when I hear that. And rest seems to be the key word of the day for me, and our world is changing completely, transforming. So, yeah, this seems to be a very relevant topic. And first lesson is living in a 24/7 society. I kind of see two major parts of the lesson. First, how God thought of us needing a rest before even we had a chance to get tired. Right, today we are really exhausted and we do run on empty most of the time, but even before that. And the second part of the lesson looks at the idea of rest through the Bible. What does it mean? And there's some good stuff there. So, what connected with you in the first part of the lesson?
Yes, Nick, like when we're talking about 24/7 society, what comes to my mind is fast-paced, dynamic, inflated to the point of exhaustion, working on 100% capacity lifestyle. Many people look at the Western civilization lifestyle as privileged, and I would agree with that because there's lots of privileges here compared to some parts of the world. But also there's a lot of demands compared to, there's a lot of demands and strings attached to this kind of lifestyle. A big one is busyness, lack of free time, no rest, no stopping, hustling all the time, a perpetual state of endless and frantic activity. The question is there a potential spiritual problem with such a lifestyle? And what's God's provision in response to that? Unexplainable how, even before we got tired, God thought of time and rest. Like the seventh day, for example, but not only. God thought of time when we deliberately stop and enjoy the moment. We stop and enjoy the nature around us. Time when our spirits soar and flies off.
Business is definitely one side of it, but it seems to me that this is just the expression and the result of something much deeper, like lack of satisfaction, for example. But I think that the lessons we are going to give us opportunity to talk more about this later. How about the second part, looking through the Bible for meaning of rest?
Yeah, the meaning. I see that there is a battle between activity and rest. And ironically, both created both of them. Interesting. What if we lose the balance of those two? What if we ignore one or the other? The Old Testament comes up with a number of terms, and we see them in the lesson defining rest. What is rest? Like the word Shabbat, for example, which means to stop work, to take a holiday. Or another word is nuach, which means rest, but in the sense of settled. Another word is shakat, to be at rest, to be quiet, peace in the land, to stop the wars, this kind of rest. Also, the verb raga as no rest in exile. And another word, shakab, as rest from life. Lie down. God said, I'm going to lie you down, and you're going to go and sleep with your fathers. The Old Testament, from what we see, describes that for every activity, there is the opposite, rest. And it doesn't come naturally to us. In fact, it appears to be in an imperative, in causative form when it's given in the Bible, because we're the ones who cause the rest. We're the ones who choose to rest. As much as activity and achievement is important, rest and break is as important too. And as much as it is individual, it is a collective choice because it affects the physical, socially, and emotionally. The New Testament presents the same concept through the various terms that it uses. And we know when Jesus said to his disciples, "Come with me by yourselves to a quiet place and get some rest." Rest is a choice. Again, another blessing from God.
Well, it's amazing from how many angles and perspectives we can look at rest. We all come from different experiences, and it may be physical rest that we need so badly. I mean, a good night's sleep, I know that I can use that. Rest from pain, though, or rest from sickness, from disappointments. Or maybe we don't even need this type of rest, but we need things to start actually moving. It's a different type of rest in a sense. And interestingly, all this seems to have a common base and root. The lesson ends looking at Cain and his struggle with exactly this.
Yeah, and when it comes to Cain, he had a hard time making a choice to rest, to trust, to be settled in God's plan and in God's ways. He thought he can make it on his own, figure out things by himself, outsmart the divine powers and provisions until he was left empty, alone, and unprotected. Making a choice for rest in a physical and in a spiritual sense, it comes down to making a choice to follow God and his ways. Activity and rest are both on God's agenda of life. And we can try differently, but for how long?
Why do we do what we do? What do we try to achieve with that? And for some reason, as Cain, we have difficulty acknowledging our need from God. We can find satisfaction and purpose by showing our merits. And unfortunately, contrary to what we expect, this seems to be making us restless wanderers instead of finding peace. It's a big topic, so we'll continue diving into it with the subject next week. The study is labeled Restless and Rebellious.